Hey everybody, how is it going? Welcome back to the channel and to another stock market update. I'm going to jump right into this and get into the QQQ or the NASDAQ like I always do. But before I get into it, just please remember, not financial advice. It's all just my opinion on what I am seeing in the market right now. So please make all of your own buying and selling decisions. But starting off with the QQQ, in my last video, I think the market was up right around here, and I was thinking that we should get a decent bounce once it got down to this trend line. Usually the fourth touch ends up being a halfway decent bounce, but that is not what happened this time. I did make a trade on this, though. I did end up buying some call options on the TQQQ, or the the triple levered fund for the NASDAQ to the upside. Jumped in a little bit early, and I started the position actually when it got to the 50 and had a tiny bounce right away, but then it immediately rolled over, and I added just a little bit more as it got down to the trend line. But as you can see, the bounce wasn't very high at all. It just bounced up to the 50 period simple moving average, they sent it back down below that trend line, but it had that nice reversal candle, so I thought, there might still be some hope, a little bit of a fake out break through that trend line, but all they did was gap it up to the 8-period exponential moving average the next day, and then you could see all the selling that took place afterwards. So in my last video, I was talking about how I thought it'd be a pretty decent bounce, but I thought eventually we would end up failing that trend line, and that's what we had. But didn't get that much of a bounce, so unfortunately that trade did not work out for me. I thought, we'd kind of get a little bit of a bounce in maybe one of these days right here, something like this, maybe up to the 21-period exponential moving average, this purple line, just to kind of draw people into the market like they've been doing and then send it down, but they didn't even let it get up to that level. It made it up to the 8-period exponential moving average, or this white line, and then just reversed immediately. So as you can see, we're just still in a hard trend to the downside. Now, I am still of the opinion that this low is probably going to hold. So I have still been adding some stock to my M1 portfolio. That's my long-term portfolio that I just like to add on, on a weekly basis, and also add a little bit extra when the market is especially weak. But I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what ends up happening here. I think that a little bit of a, it's a sloppy inverted head and shoulders pattern. The neckline looks like, I could probably just use this one as the neckline now, because it looks like that trend line is toast, so I can probably take that off the chart. But kind of a sloppy looking neckline, potentially an inverted head and shoulders. I know I'm reaching when I'm talking about that, but I don't know. I just think that the market could be in, because a lot of the stocks that have been the weakest are not making new lows. And it just seems like the market seems to be strengthening up a little bit, even though we've had some pretty fast down action this last week or so. But what I'm looking for is potentially a nice reversal in the market, and then I'm going to start adding a little bit more aggressively. Let's take a look at the weekly chart of the QQQ or the NASDAQ. You can see that we're still above the slow line for the MACD on the weekly. This is the one that I'm looking at the most for a possible reversal. And until we break, this low right here, and definitely the 200-period simple moving average on the Qs, I'm probably still going to remain bullish. If that if these areas get taken out, then all bets are off, and it's time to be a lot more defensive. But let's jump over to the IWM, or the Russell 2000, and you can see the Russell 2000 on the weekly chart. You can see this one looks pretty good still, even though we've had those 3 down weeks in a row. MACD is still above the fast line is still above the slow line, so technically, it's the uptrend on the weekly chart is still intact. This could just be that first pullback that ends up being a deep one before we turn around and start that new uptrend. Going back to the daily chart, you can see broken down below that 50-period simple moving average, just gapped right up to that and then rolled over hard. The low from the previous day was held, as it was on the NASDAQ, I believe, so that's sort of some good news, but I think we definitely need a reversal to the upside in the overall market in the next week or so. We're probably going to be in big trouble. Now, jumping over to the USO, or the price of oil, we can see oil had this little move right here, had a nice little breakout above that 50-period simple moving average, and this is when I started getting a little bit more bullish on the price of oil, but then all of a sudden, boom. a failure and a reversal below all of those moving averages, and it actually closed below the 200 period simple moving average on Friday. So this move kind of surprised me. It kind of looked like oil was making a nice rounded bottom formation and looking like it was ready to start that new uptrend. Doesn't mean that's necessarily going to crash from here, but as we can see by the charts, the $70 range on the USO is a very important level, and if oil breaks below that, I'm probably going to see some more downward pressure on oil. Now that's good for the economy, but bad for people that have been, investing in some energy. I've been investing a little bit more in energy over these last couple of weeks. I haven't gotten too heavy, but I added to some of my positions that had been pulling back a little bit over these last couple of months. But I'm just trying to diversify my portfolio a little bit more. If energy prices do end up screaming higher into the winter months, which is very possible, I certainly want to have a little bit more exposure to energy. One stock that I thought looked pretty interesting, or I should say one sector that looked pretty interesting, and it was kind of brought to my attention by Studio from the Patreon group, is gold and silver. I mean, these things just look like they could possibly be bottoming. I had no interest in taking a position in gold or silver over these last couple of months, but once Studio from the Patreon was talking about how he was taking a position in one, I started looking a little bit closer, and I can see that we could be in the midst of a moving average convergence divergence positive signal right here. As you can see, gold is making a new low, but the MACD indicator is not making a new low. So if we get a reversal in the gold prices before the MACD makes a new low, that could be a potentially positive divergence in the price of gold. You can look at GDX, the gold miners. You can see sort of the same thing, a little bit sloppier than I like to see, but it could end up being a valid moving average convergence divergence signal nonetheless if we can jump above this white line, this 8-period exponential moving average. And as you can see, the same thing is going on with the price of silver. I like to see that big bounce up in the middle and then taking out the new low while the MACD indicator is still above the previous low. Now, this is kind of like the on your mark, and this is the get ready signal. Now the go signal is not until it breaks and holds above those moving averages. I can't stress that enough. In my earlier trading days, I would try to front run this kind of trade, and this would end up not being a valid signal because the price would just continue lower. When you're trying to bottom fish, you got to be a little bit more precise than on a normal signal because you're kind of fighting the trend here. So even though we got this nice moving average convergence, divergence, positive reversal potentially happening right here, you have to be mindful of that third most important part of the trade, and that's getting above those moving averages and holding. As we can see, we had kind of one right here. Let me go back in time and just show you a little bit here. If we went back a couple of months, you can definitely see that we had the start of one right here. Moving average convergence divergence was higher, but we never got that break above, the moving averages to confirm the signal. We want to see something more like this right here, where we're having that new low in price, we're having a higher low on the indicator, and then we're getting that break and that hold above those moving averages. This is the type of the trend that I am trying to play right here. I want to see the potential of a reversal right here. I want to see it confirmed by the not only the indicator but also by price holding above those moving averages. And this is the type of the trend that I try to play on those reversals. But let me get this crap out of here and jump back to present time, and then we can move on. Now, I want to show you some nice looking charts that I see in the market right now. If we are in that bottoming process of the market, the new winners tend to be the ones that are holding up the best as the market is rolling over. Those are the ones that end up being the new leaders if we do get another bull run. So these are some of the ones that I have on my list, and believe me, the list is a heck of a lot easier to make right now than it is normally. Normally you have a lot of stocks on this list, but there isn't a whole lot of stocks that are holding up very well in this environment, especially if you strip away energy. There's a lot of energy names out there that are holding up pretty well sell for obvious reasons, but let me show you some of the other ones that I like. This one is Humana. They are in the healthcare business, and as you can see, this one has been going sideways for quite a while. It had a nice little breakout, and this thing is holding up very well. If we do get a bottom in the market in the next week or 2 or 3, and Humana breaks out to a new high above 505, I think this one could be one of the stronger stocks in that next bull run. And if we go to the weekly chart, you can see even how much stronger this thing looks. It's been in a nice range here over the last couple of years, just has recently broken out. So this one is definitely high up on my watch list. Let me go back to the daily chart. Another one that looks pretty darn good is ULTA Beauty. My daughters love this store. Haven't really been in there myself, but I've dropped them off a couple of times, and they come out with some, you know, ridiculous-looking products, but nonetheless, they still like it. ULTA Beauty has been having a very similar pattern as Humana. Been going sideways for many months now, and if we look at the weekly chart on it, you can see how strong this company is. Basically, just under accumulation over these last couple of years or so, and if we get a breakout above, I don't know, you can call it maybe 440 just to be safe, especially if we get a you know, a reversal in the overall market. I think ULTA could end up being one of those leaders. Some other stocks that are looking pretty good at the moment is BTU, some of these coal stocks. You see BTU, it looks like it's starting to form a little bit of a rounded bottom. If you go to the weekly chart, you can see that it looks like it's bouncing very nicely off the 50-period simple moving average on the weekly chart. It could be potentially moving higher. Another one in that sector looks pretty interesting to me anyway was AREC. You can see this one has been in a nice consolidation for many months now and is just starting to break out. This is the weekly chart right here, but if we go to the daily chart, you can see how strong this thing really looks. I mean, just following those moving averages up beautifully. So this is a coal stock that probably a lot of people are not paying attention to. Everybody are paying attention to some of those higher priced ones, but AREC looks like it is in a nice uptrend at the moment. One that I am invested in is LNG. This one is a natural gas pipeliner, and they look to probably end up doing very well in the energy squeeze that unfortunately is going on in Europe right now. If you haven't seen what's going on over there, it's actually kind of sad how high prices have gone, and could potentially lead to some really dire economic consequences over there. But LNG is going to be shipping a lot of nat gas over there, since a lot of those countries are not going to be buying it off Russia anymore. So I think LNG looks to you know, do very well in that situation. And if you go to the weekly chart on LNG, you can see has had a very nice run, pull back to that 8-period exponential moving average where it found support and immediately reversed to the upside. So very healthy looking chart for LNG. I had been watching this one forever. Obviously, I'm not watching it right now because the chart's not working. There we go. I had been watching this one for a long time. Finally started adding it down here, added some more to the 200, but I thought it was going to roll over past that 200. I wanted to really load up if it got down to right around this area right here, right around 110, but unfortunately it kind of took off without me. I have a small position in it, but I think if we get a pullback down to the 150 area, I'm probably going to end up adding some more, because I think that the situation going on over there in Europe, which is bad for them, is going to be good for Cheniere Energy. But we'll jump on to the next one. Next one I really like here is GPC. This one is a genuine parts company. You might know them as Napa Auto Parts, but we can see they have broken out from a very long consolidation and are in a little bit of a pullback phase at the moment, trying to make a little bit of a handle around $150 to $160. And if this one gets a breakout above 162 and the market is bottoming, I think this one could also be a pretty nice mover in the potential new bull market. And last but not least is MMYT. I thought this one just looked rather interesting. This one's an ADR. I probably will not be taking a position in this one, but I love this chart pattern nonetheless. As you can see, this thing has been in a little bit of a consolidation, rounded bottom formation for a couple of years now. And if you look at the weekly chart, even looks better than it does on the daily chart. A nice little pop up, and it's been consolidating above that 8-period exponential moving average for the last 4 weeks. So a break above $35 a share could be a very nice bullish breakout for MMYT. But I'm going to end the video right there before this goes on too long. As always, if you guys see anything interesting in the market, whether it's on the the indices or any individual names, please let me know down there in the comment section. I really appreciate it when you guys do that. But I'll stop it right here. Thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end. And until next time, take care, everybody.